All right. Welcome to a Stranger Perspective podcast dedicated to the idea that our lives are improved when we learn to listen to and understand the perspectives of other people. Today, I have my good friend, Dominique. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we're doing this.
I'm always happy in your presence.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that might be the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me.
Oh.
I'm happy in your presence too. So we did your podcast a while back, The Vinyl Couch.
Mm-hmm, which I haven't posted in a while on there.
Yeah, it's cool. It's all good. And I had a great time. So it was like obvious you need to come on and do this as well. So I'm excited. But yeah, today we want to talk about a few different things. I think the first thing we kind of wanted to get into is relationships. I mean, I think one of the big things that has been a blessing in, for me, like getting to know you and your husband, Josh, is watching you guys' relationship. Because you guys, I feel like, have like this amazingly functional like marriage relationship. And you've been married at like 3 or 4 years now?
We just hit 3 years on the 16th of March.
That's amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Milena and I just celebrated 10 on
Which is
January.
Fucking awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah. But like, we're like learning shit from you guys, from watching the way you guys, your relationship works. So we definitely want to jump into that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you guys met?
Oh my God, I'd love to.
Let's hear the story.
I met Josh when I was 19 years old. I was at a friend's house, which is okay. A little backstory to that though. I was actually talking to this other guy named Josh as well.
Another
guy named Josh. And
so you have a type?
No. Well, he did kind of look like Josh, but like
kidding.
Less cute. So I got the cuter Josh for sure.
Nice.
I was talking to him and I was at his house and we were just hanging out. It was a summer going into my second year of ministry school. And then they had invited some other friends over. It was like me and my girlfriends and then like that Josh and his like guy friends and some of his roommates. And Josh just like walked in and...
So we refer to him as Ugly Josh?
Yeah, we can refer to him as like, he was also like balding. So like balding Josh is better.
Bald Josh. Okay, yeah. For sure. So bald Josh was at this party and you came with some of your girlfriends.
Yes. And then it was kind of like people were trickling back into Reading to start school again. And so
because you went to Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, is that what it's called? Right?
Yes, I like to keep out the supernatural because it sounds weird.
Bethel School of Ministry.
But yeah, I went there.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, I was just hanging out and I was sitting on a chair and I remember it like it was yesterday, like, and Josh just like opened the door and like we like made eye contact and you could tell his eyes got like really big because he was like he just like noticed me right away, but then looked away.
Nice.
So that's how we met really. And it was like from there, we were in the same circles that year. So we like we went to this casino where they had karaoke and he was there and I was like, are you gonna sing a song? And he was like, yeah. And he starts rapping and like at the karaoke place. And I was like, oh man, like he knows how to have fun and he knows how to like let loose and not give a shit about what anyone thinks about him. And I really admired that about him. And it was kismet from there.
Dang, yeah. So you guys just like, did you guys talk there? Like at that party?
Barely.
Until you got to karaoke.
What's funny is everyone kind of knew we were like, I guess, into each other maybe. And so they all left us alone. And I was like, didn't want to be left alone with him for some reason. I didn't want him to like get to know me too fast or too close. Cause I was like,
keep some mystery in there.
Yeah. So I was like, wait, someone left. I was like, wait, no, don't leave me. Like literally in front of him, which is funny. But yeah, I wanted to keep the mystery.
How did bald Josh feel about all this?
So apparently I didn't find this out till later, but he was pissed at Josh because he felt like my Josh stole him away from him. And he's like, I really liked her. And, and then he just like came in and like took her from me, I guess.
Damn, player. He's like back there too, right?
Yeah, Josh was just like smooth. What I like about Josh is like, he was just so intentional about what he wanted. He was super direct and he took me out on dates and like paid for our dates. And he was just like just
had hair.
What?
Had hair.
And yeah, he had hair. He had a hairline. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that's actually like an interesting thing. So did you feel like guys before that maybe didn't like put their best foot forward in that way? Like Josh came in, he knew what he wanted, confident, took you out, but other guys just playing, the game a little too much or what?
I don't know. I no other guy really showed interest in me. I'm the type of girl who, if I like somebody, I was very direct with them. So like if I saw a guy at school that I liked, I would that day or the next day I'd add him on Facebook and then DM him and be like, hey, nice. Like I was that person.
What's up? Yeah.
And literally was rejected like 3 times. So like no big deal. But
I can't understand that.
I don't know. But so yeah, but no other person really, I'm trying to think. But
it's like once you started to get to know Josh, was it pretty quick that you knew like, oh, this guy, I'm like really interested. Maybe he's even someone I want to be with like long term or even marry?
Not right away, I don't think. Okay. But it was the cool thing about like us dating, our dating story was like we just like became just like the best of friends. Like we like it felt like he was a friend I had been missing my whole life. Honestly, like just so he is so funny, just so comfortable. That was one thing, like just so comfortable around him. And it usually takes me a while to get comfortable around people, and around him it felt like we were just best friends like our whole lives, and that's like the major part.
I heard like an interesting quote recently, or like I read it on Instagram. It said, where did I hear? I can't remember where I heard it, but it said a new relationship like feels like a drug. And the right relationship feels like home. Yeah. That sounds like you found the one that felt like home, not the one that's just like, infatuation really quick. And like, obviously like just, that initial attraction, but no depth. Right. Sounds like you found the one that's like, we were with them. There was the attraction, but like with Josh, it felt like more than just like this temporary high, but like being home. Yeah,
100%. And I think it felt like home. I think, well, our first date was like not that great. Our second date beginning was awful. Like just so like stale, like no good conversation. It wasn't until we like got out of like the date, like dinner scenario, when we went like thrifting or something, and like we started joking, and then it felt like home. It felt like, oh my God, like you're the best,
Wow. That's actually pretty interesting. Do you think, so it's like, it wasn't like the traditional dating thing, like the thing you're supposed to do when you're trying to get to know somebody, like take them out to dinner, have a drink, like talk about, what are your interests, whatever. But it was like actually just doing something together that made you realize like, oh, I could, the whole dinner thing, like we didn't click or vibe, but like going out and actually like living together, doing things together. That's when you realize like, oh, like I connect with this guy.
Yeah. And I think it was just like letting down the pressure of feeling like you have to say the right things, or you have to, eat with your mouth closed, take your elbows off the table, just like the relaxed state of being in like a thrift store and like, goofing off. Like that was super fun. And that's awesome. Super cool. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's cool. So when did you start to feel like you knew like it was going somewhere?
I would say during Thanksgiving, we drove to Vegas so he could meet my family for the first time. And that trip was an 8-hour drive. And so we spent a total of 16 hours in a car together. And when we got back to Reading, I was like, so you want to hang out again? And he was like, yeah. Like you weren't sick of each other after that? Yeah. I was like, you want to hang out still? Like, I don't want to leave your apartment. And he was like, yeah, I don't want you to leave. Yeah. And like, so that was like, okay, yeah, that was the moment for me where I was like, I think I want to marry this person. And I think I told him I loved him too at that point as well.
Like how long had you guys been dating at that point?
November. Ooh, I don't know.
Like less than a year?
Yeah, I think less than because we got engaged at like a year.
Oh, wow.
Of dating.
For sure.
Yeah. And then we were married 6 months after that, which is really, really fast. I know. I really understand that now.
Melena and I, we dated for 3 months and then we're engaged for 3 months.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I mean, I guess we knew each other for a few years before that.
But you weren't dating. Like that's different.
Yeah, we weren't dating. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a youth pastor and I was 19 when we kind of like got to know each other, and she was 16. So I don't know. We're talking about it before, but like, I think that was illegal. That's illegal. So we didn't talk. We didn't like have any really connection or like hang out or whatever. And then, but we kind of like admired each other from afar kind of thing for a few years. And then at church, we'd end up doing stuff together, end up going on the same mission trips. And so we got some time to like kind of be around each other.
Question.
Yeah.
When you're on the mission trips, I need to know, were you sitting next to each other? Were you holding hands?
There was like this weird back and forth. We were not holding hands. We were not doing any of that stuff. We were good Christian little kids.
You sat next to each other and touched thighs?
Maybe that happened. I'm trying to remember. Gosh, it's so long ago now. But I think it was one of those things though, where like people could definitely tell like, what is this? You know, like something's like people could just pick up on the energy between us.
Yeah.
And you can't hide it sometimes when you're like really attracted to somebody, really like into someone.
Yeah.
You just like look at them different. People can feel when your energy changes when they come around. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things. And it was a little weird because it was like the youth pastor and then like, you know, so yeah, it was like the big no.
Just looks bad.
But like, it's not like we did anything inappropriate. I think people could just like sense the attraction in a sense, which, you know, was kind of probably weird for some people, but hey, I wasn't just being a creepy, I mean, probably was, but like I ended up marrying her. So, but we knew each other for those 2.5 years where we didn't really like have a friendship or relationship. We just happened to be around each other sometimes. And then, but once she graduated high school, I was like 20. And she was 18 or 17 at that point, and I think she was 18. And then she graduated, and then that's when we dated for 3 months, and then we're engaged for 3 months and got married.
That's so crazy. Yeah. And I want to know, like, when you first were like, oh, like I'm interested in her. What was it about it that was it like a one moment? Was it slowly, or was it and like what was it about her that you were like, I want to get to know this chick?
So it was probably like a few different things. One, I just think she is like the most physically attractive person, like probably that walks the face of the earth. I have a thing for eyes, and she's just got these big, dark, beautiful eyes, you know?
She does.
And so those just got me. So probably just on a biological, like just dude level, she just kind of, she got me, you know? But she's like opposite of me in every way. So I think there's something that intrigued me about that, because like she was always like, where I might be more timid, she was always pushing forward. Where I would like, you know, kind of like play it safe, she would like risk it all to say the thing that she really thinks. And I just admired that a lot. And I probably, to be honest with you, I probably had a little bit of a savior complex going on, you know, being like a youth pastor and stuff. And like Milena at the time, like when I first reconnected with her, because we actually met my senior year of high school and she was a freshman, and they asked us to do like school chapel because they found out like she could sing and I played guitar. And so they're like, hey, will you guys like lead the school chapel band or whatever? And so we ended up meeting that way. But then I graduated, left, whatever. But when we reconnected, I think basically like she was at this place where she was kind of like in a rebellious state, like as like a Christian. She was like dating this guy that her parents didn't approve of, and like everyone was concerned, and you know, he was like one of those bad guys or whatever. And I was like the good Christian kid, and everyone's like, man, if only she could be with someone like or like Zach, you know? So I think I got a little bit of this like savior complex, and I was like, wanted to be the one to pull her out of that, like
through dating her.
I honestly, at the time, it was just through being her friend, you know, like being there, being a person. Like I wasn't a youth pastor yet. I think I was still 18 at the time, but like, you know, like we were both involved at church. And so like, I knew she was struggling, but she had this singing talent. She could sing like crazy. So it was like, hey, come and sing. Like, we'll practice worship together, whatever. And it was through doing those worship things together that I don't know what it was. Like, honestly, like I kind of hated that I was so attracted to her, because I was like, she's like rebelling against the Lord right now, and she's not walking with Jesus. And so I was like, and I want a really godly wife that like blah, 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 whatever. And like, so, but I just couldn't help it. Like, it's just one of those things I couldn't even put my finger on it fully for you. I could just say like, she just had me. She just had me for some reason.
I love that. Yeah. Love that for you.
But like now, like after all these years, the things that I love about her the most are that she is just completely unfiltered in who she is, you know? So she'll like literally what you see is what you get with Milena 100%. And I'm always overthinking things like how are people perceiving what I'm saying? How, like I'm trying to imagine other people, how they're looking at me and stuff. And Milena just doesn't, she's like missing this thing that we all are burdened with, which is like caring what other people are thinking all the time. She just doesn't have that. And so like, I think like now the thing I admire the most about her is just like, she is just so unashamedly herself, whatever she feels, whatever she thinks, whatever, however she is, that's exactly what you see and what you get. And I just feel like that's so rare.
Yeah.
Like I've never known another person as free as her in that regard, So, I've started to fall in love with that part too.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And so like, as you're getting to know Josh and like you guys come back from this trip, he meets your family, you're starting to feel like he's someone that you want to actually be with, for the rest of your life. That's cool.
For sure. Yeah. I was thinking about that. And then like there was a time where we took a break from our relationship because, our purity just wasn't.
You needed to get like your eyes back on the Lord.
Yeah. I needed to just take a break because, we would get together. We would lay on my twin bed and like touch each other in the dark. And like,
did you feel like so guilty? And then you're like, we need to repent and take a break to put our eyes on Jesus.
Because it was happening a lot. And obviously we're like falling in love with each other. So it's like, of course.
Yeah.
But back then I was thinking like, I just like, if we can't do this purity thing, like, cause I'm 100% like an all in, all out type of person. So I'm like, if we're going to have a godly relationship, we need to also be pure. We can't just like have this one part out, And so I was like, we can take a break. And for a weekend, we didn't like talk to each other at all.
Like 2 days?
Yeah, like 2 days. We took a weekend from because we talked every day at that point, every day for like, I think that was like maybe 6 months into our dating relationship. And so, I don't know what happened. I talked to my old, like one of my youth leaders and told her about it. And he, I don't know who he went to, but yeah.
Nice. So like, when did you guys actually get married?
Like what year we got married?
Or like how long after dating or getting to know each other, I guess? Like,
yeah. So we got engaged like a year. We went back to Vegas and then he proposed at Mount Charleston. We like took a hike.
Nice.
And he proposed to me. And then 6 months after that, we were married.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, people told my mom, like my mom would be telling people and people would tell her like, oh, your daughter's getting married. How, like they find out she's 21. Oh my God. Like that's so young. And like, they would almost in a way, like be like
looking down on it,
on my mom. Yeah. For like allowing me or allowing this to happen, me getting married so young. And then I remember at my rehearsal dinner or some party, my mom was like, I know like this was meant to be because Dom doesn't do anything she doesn't want to do and she's marrying Josh and I commend her for that. And like, she like totally backed me up but like in the weirdest way possible. like
underhandedly kind of
like she knew I wasn't doing it for the sake of getting married. She knew like he wasn't pressuring me. She knew like I wasn't doing it just because, other people were doing it. She knew like I was in love with this person and like, it was thought through, fully. And Josh and I went to premarital counseling. We did like a class before we got married. And so I'm very grateful. I told him like, I don't want to marry you unless we do premarital counseling. And he didn't want to do it. But I'm very glad we did because that was like really cool,
Yeah, for sure. Dang. So you guys get married, after basically like a year and a half of getting to know each other?
Yeah, on our 1 year, 6 month anniversary, we got married.
Oh, no way. Wow.
Yeah, like
That's
6 months
crazy.
on the dot, I think. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. And like, so when the more Milena and I spend time with you and Josh, the more it like becomes very clear that you guys have like a functioning relationship as young people. And I feel like it's like rarer and rarer to even see anyone at all with a functioning relationship, And so we watch you guys and like learn a lot from you guys. What do you think it is? Like, is there any like particular thing or things that like you think just works with you and Josh that like makes your relationship, functional and kind of work?
Let's see. I don't think it's one thing. It's probably a multiple of things like that we do together. But I think we have like really good communication. And we're constantly just like, are you good? Are you good? And like every step of the way, like, no matter what we're facing, either personally or in our relationship, we're like keeping up with each other, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that like great foundation of like friendship that we've just had from the beginning that keeps us like, that's our ground we stand on, you know, and we're always just building on top of that. And you know, and so, and it's just also like knowing each other, I think has kept us like super in sync, like knowing what triggers him and knowing, you know, how he responds to certain things and knowing, you know, I know like, and I know stuff before I say it, like, I know this will trigger him. So let me just like, you know, say it in a different way, you know, and I'm so willing to like lay down like any ego, lay down any like sense of being right, any sense of like, you know, even I'm willing to compromise. I'll do anything for Josh because I want him to feel, my goal in life is that he just feels loved and known and seen because I love him with like my entire being, you know? And so I just try to do my best to lay myself down because, and I know also because I know he's also willing to do that for me, you know?
For sure.
And so that's what I think like, you know, brings us together and, you know, draws us closer together.
I feel like one of the things I've heard you say, you know, multiple times when we've talked about this kind of stuff is like, you know, we're all wrong and right in different ways and like are fighting. And I feel like usually a big fight happens because both people are kind of right.
Yeah.
And like sticking to the way that they're right and trying to get recognition like of the way that they're right in the fight. But I hear you say often about like when you and Josh are working through, you know, disagreements or issues or whatever, like I hear you say things about like, you know, I just know Josh needs this from me right now. Or I know like, you know, more or less you're willing to take the loss. You're willing to like
100
be perceived as wrong or just like disengage, you know, when those things happen, and not have to win. And I feel like with Milena and I, we're both freaking determined to win all the time. Like we're both A-type personalities. We're both like, you know, like kind of feel like we should both be both of us feel like we should be the leader in things, you know? And we're constantly vying for that. But like, is that something you've always just been able to do? Or is it something that like is unique with your relationship with Josh just because you love him so much?
Yeah, like, bro, like I would say like love, like for me, I've like had an encounter, you could say with the Holy Spirit, with God, but like I had an encounter with a being that I think that fully embodies love, and love like changes you. Like true, pure love literally changes you. And so I haven't always been this way. And it's only something I do for Josh, to be honest. Like I know I'm right like 90% of the time. Obviously. And I'm willing to fight for that in any other scenario. But like when it comes to Josh, like I don't want to say he's my kryptonite. That's kind of cheesy and weird, but like
my kryptonite.
He is like, I don't know. I'm just willing to do that for him because of my love for him.
Is it unique to Josh, or is that something
100.
you do like in most of your relationships? Or
I would say, that's a good question. I would say I'm willing to go all the way in that area for Josh. Most people, it's like a level of that for them. So it's like my family, it's another level, like, you know, for them. And like with friends, it's depending on how deep I am with that person, I guess. But if I don't give a shit about you, like, no, I'm not going to lay down my life for you and be willing to be wrong because I know I'm right. You know? Yeah. So I don't know.
That makes sense. So it's like, hey, if it's someone that you know, you're like, you are invested in, you admire, you love enough to like go the distance with them. You're just kind of like, who cares if I'm right or wrong?
Yeah.
If it's someone that's like, you know, has no like kind of, you know, weight or authority in your life, it's just kind of, that's someone you're willing to be like, no, fuck you kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, and it's so weird how it ends up like working almost opposite for a lot of relationships, where it's like you get so used to being with the person. And obviously I'm saying this from my own experience, like how I end up being sometimes. Like you're so used to being with the person that you're like you're willing to kind of like let the worst parts of you come out and not continually show that like level of grace that takes sacrifice, that takes energy, you know, that takes like willpower. Like it's easy to become super comfortable. And do you feel like you actively fight against that? Or is that even like a thing with you guys where it's like, where you feel like so comfortable, you're willing to let the worst sides come out? Or Or are you just kind of like, hey, you know, I love this person. I'm continually going to put my best foot forward as far as like working out like issues and being willing to be wrong in fights?
I would say, well, I think that's where I'm probably different than most people. Like when it comes to like, you know, seeing the worst parts or that challenge, like I always embrace the challenge because I always say this to people when they talk about marriage. Like I love the challenge that marriage brings because it only like sharpens me and sharpens us together. And so when I notice like I'm like, ooh, I'm like intrigued. I'm like, oh, let's go deeper in that. Or let's like, you know, Josh is struggling with this stuff. I'm like, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just like, ooh, let's confront this actually. And let's like look at it, dissect it, analyze it. And let's, you know, whatever. So I think it's just my personality, maybe more than anything. I don't think it's intentional.
Yeah. Well, I noticed you're kind of like that with your friendships too. You know, you've been like such a great friend. You and Josh both have been like amazing friends to Melina and I. And especially in a time where it's like we ended up, you know, like deconstructing in our faith, kind of like we stopped going to church. And I think some of our friends like just didn't know what to do with us at that point, you know? And like when we started to get to know you and Josh, it was kind of one of those things where like, I remember it was probably a couple weeks into our friendship. Like we had hung out a few times. You and Josh came over that first time and, you were getting closer with Melina. And I remember like pulling in the driveway and getting home and I could hear Melina's in the backyard talking to someone. So because I'm like a nosy bastard, I like walked over to the side. I'm like eavesdropping and listening. And I'm like, oh, she's talking to Dom. And you were telling her like, hey, you know, Melina, I love you so much. Like, you know, I just wanted to communicate with you. You did this, and this thing, and it made me feel this way. Is that what your intention was? And I remember you like saying something along those lines and I was just listening, being like, what the hell? Like, who's got like this level of honesty and communication? And obviously Melina is like such an honest and straightforward person too. And it ended up like being like a beautiful conversation. I was just like, man, I'm so glad I like was nosy and like listened to that whole thing behind your guys' back. And like, I just like, you know, think about the way I see you interact with Josh and the way you've been a friend to Melina and I, and like, you just have this thing where you're willing to say the hard stuff and not, you know, like not be offended, with an honest answer. Like you value an honest answer over, you know, the answer you want to hear. And, I definitely noticed that in your relationship with Josh. And it's like one of those example kind of things where we're like, man, like we really need to be more like that. We really need to like say what we mean instead of like trying to get the other person to like come to our side and like be okay with hearing hard truths, you know, from the other person in the relationship and stuff. And that's definitely something I definitely admire watching, you know, you and Josh, you know, kind of interact and the way you've been friends with us and stuff too. So like, and I'm thinking about like the way that, you know, you and Josh obviously got married, you know, which is not a lot of young people's experience. Yeah. Oh, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
Just do whatever. And, you know, like you got married the same age I was when I got married.
You're 21?
I was 21. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Melina was 18. I was 21.
Crazy.
And I feel like I don't really even know a lot of people like, or maybe even anyone else that got married that young.
And well, where we came from in our culture, that was like the norm. Like people were getting married 20. And one of my friends, she's divorced now actually. She got married when she was 19 and just wasn't a great scenario, but that was like the norm as far as like,
So it's like, so you guys were like one of the few that kind of made it. Cause I feel like most of the people I do know that got married that young ended up getting divorced, you know, honestly. And I don't think that's a bad thing anymore.
Right.
But as you know, you think back on your relationship with Josh and those things that made it work. Do you think those things apply to even people that aren't interested in necessarily getting married right now, but just looking for a good relationship, or maybe just in a relationship where they're just dating, you know, not necessarily thinking about marriage yet?
I would say not so much like the laying down. Like I think that, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I keep hitting that cord.
As many times you hit it, don't even worry about it.
I think not so much like the laying down your life. Cause that's like heavy commitment, heavy, like, cause if you lay down your life to someone who is manipulative or controlling and not encompassing like really great values, like that can destroy your heart and destroy your life. So I wouldn't recommend that to someone who's dating someone or even like boyfriend and girlfriend, but I would definitely like tell people to put like a high value of truth, you know, in your relationships, because that's what's going to make you stronger, whether you end up breaking up or staying together. Like knowing the truth allows you to grow, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's the goal of, like, to me, that's the goal. Like the goal is to grow and be better, you know? So why wouldn't you want to hear the truth from your partner? Like, hey, you did this wrong or whatever. Or, hey, you know, you're really great at this, or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
or you did this thing that hurt me, you know, or made me feel this certain way when you said this or did this.
Or sometimes when you get drunk, you get a little crazy and you know, you like hit me. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
but
you know,
like,
just have open communication.
Yeah,
you know,
just.
It's so funny.
but like, yeah.
Yeah, having that communication is big. But I like what you're saying, because I do feel like a lot of people, and I've definitely felt this way at times before too, where it's like, you know, you're almost like sometimes you almost want to like tell the other person what you feel like they want to hear. You know, especially if it's like a new relationship. Sometimes, you know, people can be so concerned about like saving the relationship because it's like, okay, I've been, you know, I felt lonely and I finally have this person that loves me, that will text me all the time, that will, you know, go on dates with me and be my boyfriend or my girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we live in such a lonely, you know, like honestly, like society now, that when people find that, they're almost willing to put up with so much shit and not say how they really feel in order to like keep the relationship going or keep that person interested in them.
You think?
I mean, I maybe
think
it's just the people I notice, but oh really?
Well, as far as like, I'm in a workplace now where I'm with a lot of young people, and it's like people are dating, and the one sign of like conflict, it's like, I'm out.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
And they don't want to face, because they're like, they're just waiting for everything to be perfect, like to line up.
My guy that's like 6 foot, he's got money and he's like really nice, but he's kind of a badass, but he's like really well balanced, no issues.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't exist.
Right. Or like for some reason, I feel like younger people think that the perfect relationship has no like conflict, has no like, I think, and I hate to say this because it's kind of cliche, but like, because the filtering of like, you know, Instagram and like, you know, everything looks perfect. So like they're, you know, the inside should reflect what their feed looks like possibly. I don't know, but I think that, and I watched a documentary about this too. I can't remember which one, but they were talking about how like dating culture and how, you know, Tinder and swipe left, swipe right just allows people to have this mindset of like, people are expendable. Like if this one doesn't work out, I have another one. And the moment I don't like something, I have another option. I have more and more options.
Wow. Yeah. Absolutely. That makes so much sense. And it's like, yeah, like there's no willingness to get through adversity, but it's kind of weird because it's a fine balance. Cause I feel like as many people that I know, I'm like, dude, that's normal. You should just work through that shit. At the same time, there's just as many people that I'm like, why are you hanging on to this? Like literally does you no good. You're literally miserable. You're just so scared of being alone. Definitely.
You know, I've totally seen that. And that's almost like even a bit like more sad in a sense, because I think those people who are like serial monogamists and they go from one relationship to the next one,
like don't know how to be single.
Because it's like who are you without another person attached to you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, this is one of the things that's kind of weird to talk about, because I do have some like youth pastor trauma where there's certain things I don't want to like talk about or say anymore because like I said them so much in those days that I'm like as
a preacher, like on stage.
Yeah, and it feels a little cringy, you know, or like, you know, trying to minister to people. And one of the things that I used to tell people is like, you know, you need to like have a season, be able to go through a season of being single. And if you're good in that, then like at the time, the way I would think about it is like, hey, if you're good with just you and in your relationship with God, you don't, you don't need anything else. You don't need another person to fulfill you. Like you're finding all of that in God. Right. And it was like, then you're finally ready and God will bring you that person or whatever. And, you know, the way, and like, I still feel like in a sense, it's kind of true, but like different. It's not necessarily God, but it's like, hey, if you don't know how to like be okay with yourself, like if you don't know how to be in love, like get what you need from yourself without another person. If you put the burden of fulfilling your life on another person, making you feel a certain way, making you, you know, feel accepted. If you can't feel accepted within yourself, love within yourself, but happy with yourself apart from someone else's approval,
100%,
then then when that other person eventually comes and you put that unfair burden on them to make you feel that way, eventually they're probably immediately, definitely eventually they're going to start letting you down over and over. And then eventually what happens is you go from relationship to relationship where at the beginning it feels great and you're getting all these things you need and like you feel so loved and that fire's there. But as soon as your real personality start to come out, your flaws start to become apparent. It's like, oh, I don't know, I'm having second thoughts, and eventually you're done, on to the next person. And it's like people, not everybody, but like I notice a lot of people never get past that first stage of like literal like infatuation, which is like a biological thing, like literally like biologically in your brain, there's like these chemicals being released that make you feel so happy about the relationship that you like do not see the flaws. You ignore the red flags. You choose not to see it because you're so like caught up in getting that dopamine rush from them in whatever way they give it to you, sexually or with your approval or like validating you in some way. Yeah. And then because of that, like once that phase of the relationship fades away and you don't have those biological things happening to your body, you start to see all the flaws, and then you're like, it's almost like you wake up and you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like this was great. And then all of a sudden it takes a sharp turn. So I feel like a lot of people don't make it past that, but, how did you make it past that?
I can't even like recall the infatuation stage. I think it was all just like, it was fun because it was like new. It's like, oh my God, there's a boy who wants to like touch me. Like, oh my God. like that. I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. I don't know. I think after, because that all ends once the conflict hits, once the first fight happens or once the first like argument argument or disagreement happens, like, and you have to start like taking the time to, like dissect, work through how they're feeling, and you find out, oh, like this person's sensitive. I have to actually like work on something on myself so that they feel loved. Like that's how you work through that. But I think maybe some people aren't willing to, I don't want to say change, but like, they're not willing to adapt to learn to love somebody. That's the thing. You have to learn to love people the way they need to be loved. That's like huge, actually, because if you're trying to love them the way like you need to be loved, and this, like they won't feel that same way. It's
kind of like your love language. Your love languages.
Yeah. And so I think that's the part that, and I think I was intrigued by that because what I found when I adapted to learning the way I loved him, it made me a better person. It made me like, it actually like made my relationship with my sisters better because I was like willing to like,
wow.
Yeah. It was actually crazy. It was the learning to love Josh and to adapt to him, like affected like almost every area of my life in the best way possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible to hear. So do you feel like, as you got to know and like love Josh, did you find that your guys' love languages like correlated with each other? Or do you feel like they were separate and you had to learn how to love in a way that you don't naturally receive it?
100%. Yeah. Learn to love in a way I don't receive it. And I feel like they've changed too since we started. Like when I first started dating, it was physical touch first and then quality time. And I think his was physical touch and I can't remember the other one, but
words of affirmation.
Yes. And,
Josh, you got big balls. Words of affirmation.
And now, oh my God.
Sorry.
And now that I'm a wife, it's like, I need like acts of service, baby. Like I need you to like do these dishes. I need you to like fill up my gas tank.
For sure.
And I think for him too, it's changed as well. So it's, being attentive to your spouse and knowing when they need something different or asking them, hey, like, or, do you feel like I'm loving you the best way I can right now? Or, like, what do you need from me right now?
How much do you not demand, but like, how much do you communicate? Hey, like, okay, that's the way you need to be loved, but here's how I need to be loved. Like, is that really a focus for you when you guys are like working through this kind of stuff or is it kind of like, you just stay focused on what he needs.
No, I definitely communicate my needs to him and make them aware, because how else is he going to know, So unless he asked, and sometimes he's unaware, so when I feel like I'm not being, attended, I'd be like, hey, like right now I'm not feeling loved, and I need you to do these things for me to feel loved. I mean, I say it how it is always. So in my marriage or in my friendships, you know what I'm saying? So
for sure,
this is no different. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have like a piece of advice, or like if you could say like one thing to all the people either like single or just dating right now who maybe want to be married someday, is there something you would want to tell those people in that situation right now about relationships that you feel like would help them?
To help them find somebody? Not
necessarily find someone, but just to be able to like navigate through dating, having a relationship, or trying to figure out if they're the right one or not, or whatever. Like, is there anything in particular for you that you kind of held to that like helped guide you when it was coming to, time to make a decision about Josh, or, even like having been married for a while, is there something that you would look back and be like, hey guys, focus on this, or don't worry about these things, or, really like, work on yourself first, or anything like that?
I would say, and these things are, I think, easier said than done, but first of all, I think you need to be confident in yourself. You need to know yourself to a certain extent. Obviously, I don't know if anyone knows themselves fully, maybe, I don't know. But you need to just be super aware of yourself and where you stand in life. If you don't even know, where you are in life, or you feel like maybe lost, or you feel like things are uncertain, I probably wouldn't date somebody, in that area. I would be like, okay, let me find some stable ground in myself. So then I can I can bring some stableness to the relationship, because if you're constantly bringing unstableness and like chaos to like, there's no wonder like things aren't happening for you. But I would tell people I told my coworker this too today, just be honest, like give people your truth in a loving way, and say it in a way that, they would receive it. And, I don't know.
I really like that. I mean, honestly, I feel like, especially the first thing you said, like being okay with yourself. Like, I mean, tell me if I'm getting you right. Are you saying like, you shouldn't have to maybe, I know there's like things we have to change, that things we have to sacrifice to like love the other person, but like at your core, your personality, the things you laugh at, like you said that when you were with Josh, it felt like home. Like once you started hanging out and doing stuff, like it just felt natural. Like you felt free to be yourself around them. Would you say like, if you feel like you have to change yourself, like at that level, to please the other person, to keep them interested in you, would you say that's someone that you should just like not worry about, continuing to be with, whether or not they want to? I
think that just would naturally fade. Like, who wants to be with someone where like all their jokes are like not funny to you? Like nobody wants to be with that person, like, yeah, 100%. Yes. To answer your question, like I would not, like if Josh and I did not have the same sense of humor, we would not be together at all. Or like, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Cause I do feel like, it is kind of like one of the things you can fall back on and be like, okay, this is for me or not. Do you feel like you have to change do you feel like you have to hide who you truly are? Do you feel like you have to hold back who you truly are? Like if that's the case, if like you can't be weird, like I'm fucking weird, dude, Melena's hella weird, like we're weird. If you feel like you have to hide that shit with someone, what are you doing? Like, you don't want to have to not be yourself for the rest of your life, like, or even for the next fucking 6 months. Like be who you are and find someone, like, don't give a fuck. Like find someone who like will fuck with you for who you are.
100%. And some of the moments that I live for in my life, where I like, these are the moments that are worth living, or the moments where Josh and I are just laying in bed and like, just like laughing and like saying the stupidest shit and like farting and like, just like doing like the weirdest shit. Like those are the best. Those are like the moments that marriage is made up of, I think. And if you can't have those with that person, like if you don't envision yourself doing that with that person, like probably not your spouse or probably not your future husband or wife, you know?
And maybe not first date, maybe not.
No, definitely not
2 months.
No.
But after 2 months, if you've seen each other regularly and you feel like you can't be yourself, what are you doing? Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's like the right amount of time?
I mean, 2 months. Yeah, it's fair. It depends on how long the person takes to open up. But with the right person, they just like open you right up. I feel like they just like, they get you, they know you, they see you. And
yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know.
So let me ask you this. So Milena and I know our relationship has been, you know, like we're both very fiery people. Like we're both A types, like I was saying, but like, I think when our faith started to change, we almost had to like rediscover who we were and like make sure that those two people that like kind of came out, like that we had to make sure they were like still in love. Like they were still like good with each other, you know, after all the faith change and after it didn't necessarily become a sin to divorce. It was almost like, okay, are we good with this still? Yeah. And like have been going through like this process of figuring that out. I feel like, I mean, we've talked like, I'm not sure if you'd still call yourself a Christian or deconstructing or just like neutral, not sure, whatever. But it feels like you and Josh have been changing in that regard, you know, over the last year or so. Has that like had any, you know, do you want to talk about that at all? And then has that had any effect on your relationship?
Mm-hmm. Sure. It's kind of boring. I don't feel like it really has, to be honest. But because I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, I've definitely changed my views on things. Like I think low-key I might be Jewish. I might convert to
We're like down with the Bible, but Jesus is.
Yeah, I'm questioning that part, honestly. But Josh, you know, still has his beliefs firmly and he still like sees, I think what's changed is like the intensity of it. So it's like, you know, Jesus and God are priority in his life, but the intensity that everyone needs to know this gospel. Everyone, you know, if you don't hear the gospel, you're going to hell. And like the intensity of that has definitely like has come down to something that's more, what's the word? I guess practical or sensible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I feel like the changing of my views don't like shake him, you know, and I'm not, and I think he knows whether if I were to come to him and be like, hey, I'm an atheist, you know, it wouldn't shake him because I'm still like my morals aren't going to change.
You're still Dom.
I'm still Dom, you know?
Still Dom. Yeah.
My values are still there, you know, and I still have my convictions no matter who I, you know, pray to and who I find comfort in and seek comfort in. Yeah, I don't feel like it has. And I feel like that's such a boring answer, but
no, it's actually an interesting answer because, you know, I always think it's interesting to think that people can change so much. I mean, and you know, you're saying you haven't changed that much. I feel like I've seen you change. I feel like you're like a reluctant deconstruction, reluctantly going through deconstruction, you know, like, but that's just my opinion, but like, you know, and you know, you guys are changing, but you're not at the same time. You're like still and this is like, I think the point that you're getting at that I'm kind of getting at too, is it's like those things can change. Like your belief, how you see the world, how you view your relationship with God can change over time, but like you're still you.
Right.
And it's like important to be in love with like that he's in love with Dom, you know, and that you're in love with Josh, and like Josh might believe this or that, Dom might believe this or that, and those things might shift over time and how to whatever degree. But like Josh still just fucking loves Dom, and Dom still is just super into Josh, like the personality, the person he is, the sense of humor, all that stuff.
Right.
And I know for me, like one of the scariest things when I started deconstructing was like,
I thought that would change.
Yeah. Like I thought my relationship with Milena would change. I hid it from her for like over a year.
Shut up. Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know this.
I mean, like she knew I was like researching things, but it was all under like this thought of like, I'm going to, you know, like find the answers, and like never really said anything like I'm actually kind of doubting anything. It was more just like, I need to figure it out.
Yeah. She thought like, oh, he's going to go to the Bible. It's fine. He's going to the Bible. Like it's cool. He'll find Jesus somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And, I remember when I finally told her like, you know, honestly, babe, like, I'm not sure, like, I want to believe this so bad. Like, I'm so scared. Like, like I want to, my whole future is, you know, supposed to be in pastoring and being in the church and stuff, but I don't know if I believe this. I thought I was going to be like the unbelieving spouse where it's like, you know, like bear with, like my fear was like the Bible says, bear with an unbelieving spouse, you know, that maybe like through your faith, they might be saved. Right. And I did not want to put that burden on her of like being with someone she didn't really want to be with. Like you know, she wanted to be a worship leader. She wanted to, you know, like make this her life. And then felt like it would be a burden to her to be the unbelieving spouse while she's trying to pursue this, you know, this thing. And then, but what's crazy is like, I told her that I was like, I'm doubting stuff, to be honest with you. And she was like, you know, even if at the end of this, you decide you don't believe, you know, I just want you to know I still love you and I want to still be with you. And I was like, and that was just like a huge moment in our relationship.
Can I ask you, was that before or after her 28th birthday? If you can remember.
It was probably, it was definitely before, because I remember her 28th birthday happened like a few days before quarantine.
I remember that.
Yeah. Were you there at her birthday dinner? Yeah.
Or not the dinner, but I was there when at home group when you bought like a cupcake for her.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Doing small group for the last time. It was like my last ditch effort to convince myself I was still a Christian.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of weird, right?
I loved having you. First of all, can I just say I loved having you as my small group leader? Like I didn't like you when I first met you, TBH, but like, well, I would say I wouldn't like you. I was like not vibing you, I would say, but like, you guys were great leaders.
Man, thank you. Well, that's kind of a funny story on how we met.
I know. Yes.
You like came to our small group and like, honestly, there was some like stupid questions that like would be like, here's the sermon from the
worst
week.
The worst written questions I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And like,
just kidding. It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad, but sometimes you could tell like maybe they were written in a hurry or something and like not really.
They weren't. No, I didn't like them because they weren't like thought provoking questions. Like, I'm like, if we're going to discuss, like, give us some like good questions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Some juicy stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember like, well, I think that's like literally what you said. So we asked the question and like everyone would go around and give their answer or whatever. And it got to you and literally you're the last one, your first time in group and you hadn't said anything yet. So we're still all just like, you were just a complete enigma to us. And you were like, honestly, I think this question's stupid.
Is that really what I said?
Something like that. Like,
oh my God.
Maybe you were nicer about it. Maybe you're like, man, I don't really like the way this question is phrased or whatever. But in my mind, I translated like this question dumb. And like, and part of me was like, this bitch. And then like, but then
ruining the vibes, the God vibes like, in here.
Yeah. But then the other part of me was so intrigued because I was like, freaking finally someone like that would honestly say this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's all good. And like,
yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And then it was all confirmed when you stayed, you know, after small group and we ended up like drinking, you know, doing shots of whiskey.
Oh yeah.
And then, like, just talking and getting to know each other.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was great.
But what were we talking? I don't even remember what we were talking about.
We digress.
For sure.
I think you're talking about, I remember Melena said, you know, if you change, like I love you. And that was like huge relief off of her. And this was before her birthday because we were going into quarantine and
yeah. And then after basically once quarantine hit, it was kind of one of those things where it almost felt like we were both basically fully deconstructed at that point. And then quarantine hit and like church was canceled for a while. It was only like online.
Yeah.
So it almost felt like
it was meant to be.
I mean, in a way it did feel like that.
Wow.
It was almost like perfect timing. Like it gave us like this smooth like transition into like being okay with our deconstruction, you know?
Wow.
Cause it was really hard. Like we were like really scared. We weren't going to have any friends anymore. Like our community was gone.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Like we're still in the pandemic, but like a year after the pandemic, do you feel like it has brought you like what you need? Do you feel like what do you feel like the pandemic has brought in you like I guess spiritually? Do you feel like you've grown? Do you feel like you've lost? Do you feel like what have you grown and what have you lost like in this year?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, it feels like we lost everything and gained everything, honestly, like in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because we lost our whole old lives. but we knew it. We knew in a way it like we knew it was over anyway.
Yeah.
Like when you realize like, I don't believe this anymore. Like, you know, it's just over. Like everything after that, is just kind of like a shadow of what it used to be. And then you kind of just realize at a certain point, like, this is just not the same anymore. Like, it's just not the same. Like, I remember one point, right before the lockdown, I went on I used to work on the weekends traveling most of the time for my job. And every once in a while, I'd usually get home Sunday night. And every once in a while, I'd get an early flight, get done with my job early, and I can make it back in time for the 11 o'clock service. And I got back from my trip on this like early flight, and it was like, I was so excited to go to church because I had, didn't always get to go to church and stuff because of the traveling. And I got to church and I was so stoked. I was like, man, I really need this. I'm really struggling with my faith right now. Like, I just really need to be in church. And I got to the front row, like Melanie had saved me a seat, and the worship was like just popping. It was like great worship. And I was just like, okay, here we go. Yeah. And I lifting my hands, my eyes closed, just worshiping and stuff. And then just this sinking realization, this is not the same. I don't believe this anymore. And it was really the first time that I was just worshiping, and then I just put my hands down. I was like, this ended. This ended at some point, and I didn't fully recognize it, but it's over.
Damn.
I don't believe. And so
what do you say? What do you mean when you say I don't believe?
I don't believe God. That's actually a great question. I should probably clarify all that. But I mean that I don't believe God is limited to Christianity in the Bible. Sorry about that. That's okay. Annoying. I'm just gonna fix it. Yeah. So it wasn't a belief okay, everything I've experienced up until now has been fake or not actually God. But it was one of those moments where I realized that was probably God my whole life and those experiences I had. But I don't believe that my relationship with God is it just blew up outside of Christianity. I was I don't know who God is. I believe he's there. I know I've been interfacing with him. I know he's been working in my life, but he's not just the God of the Bible. He's just God. And it's bigger than all this stuff.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what I realized in that moment. And that's why it died. That's why I'm saying it felt like I lost everything, but also gained everything, because there were moments where it felt like it was just loss. I just lost my faith and I had no way of navigating the world, and I was scared I wouldn't know how to determine right and wrong and what I was going to do with my life and, what it meant to love God and people, which had been my whole thing up until that point. But not having to I didn't become an atheist.
Right.
I didn't say there is no God. I said there definitely is a God.
But the context in which God has been given to me is expanded, actually. Yes.
So I heard an analogy once, I think it was on the Liturgist podcast. And they said, one guy was talking about his deconstruction, and he said it was he was a plant in a greenhouse, and he grew and grew and grew. And I was so sincere in my faith in God that I did feel I was always growing and growing and growing. And then eventually you realize you're starting to grow outside of the bounds and the walls of the greenhouse. And you kind of need to bust open.
Yeah.
But up until that point, all you know is the greenhouse, and you don't know if there's anything outside of this greenhouse. But he said it's eventually you grow and you bust the roof off of the greenhouse, and you spill outside of that only to discover that you're in a whole forest. Yeah. A whole forest full of room to grow.
Wow.
And that's
that's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I made that up, honestly. When I heard that, I remember being on a plane coming home from a work trip and listening to that podcast and hearing whoever it was give that analogy, and I just started weeping.
Wow.
On the plane, because I was that is how I felt, you know. And it was it was a relief.
Good, yeah.
Because it didn't feel like I was about to lose. It felt like I was about to lose the greenhouse and gain the forest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
That reminds me of like.
By the way, if that keeps falling down, I'll turn it up and edit it and like, turn up your voice that way. So don't worry about it too much.
Okay. Yeah. That reminds me of when me and Trail, my sister, were actually talking about, this is when we were like, we were both involved in the church and everything. And we were debating about like churches. We were comparing churches like ICLV, which is the church I grew up in. And then like churches like Central Church, which are more like seeker friendly. And I used to think that those churches were just like trash. Like
me too.
They have no place or value in the realm of Christianity because, people need like the real stuff. They don't need like, they don't need, what's it called? They don't need to be
like spoon
fed. Yeah, exactly. It's like, and I think should I just wait?
Okay, go for it.
Okay. And I think my way of thinking of that was just like my thought process of myself of like, I mean, you're either all in or you're not. Like God is either all real or he's not,
That's fully how I saw it. That's totally how I saw it.
And so, but now I'm kind of thinking like maybe there is levels to this and maybe, she kind of like, she opened my mind to think like maybe, God, he reveals himself fully to people who allow him to. So like maybe these people are like coming from, a broken home and they've been hurt and they have trauma and they're like, where was God when there, and they're like, okay, maybe I'll give him a chance here in this place where he can add some value to my life. And I'll go to another church where he can add, where he's bigger, where I can maybe believe, maybe I can depend on him, maybe God, or maybe I can go to another church where I actually believe fully that like he has a life for me and he has a plan for me. And like, he's all I have. He's everything I need. It's like those levels of like trust with God. But but even I'm just thinking of this as I'm talking right now, but like now I'm thinking like there's a part where your belief expands from that, even like where he is your everything and you can depend on him. And I think there's beauty in that moment of like allowing yourself to depend on like something you've never even like seen with your eyes, with your life. That's actually like beautiful. But I think, I don't know, maybe you can move on from that and not move up or whatever, but like maybe there's, a level that's different than that where it's like, okay, I have lived in this moment and now there's something else for me, I don't know.
Interesting. I almost feel like it is kind of almost like a marriage relationship where it's like you go through these different phases and at first you think you know them. You think you know your spouse, you think you know your partner. And then, after 10 years, I know for Elena and I, there's things that I'm like, wow, like I knew you back then, but I didn't, like I knew you 5 years ago, but I didn't know you like I know you now. Yeah. I knew you like 9 years ago. Like I knew who you were, but like now that it's been 10 years, I'm just like, I really know you. And like in the way that I know you now, even though you're the same person, it's not like the way I knew you back then.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's completely different. It's completely expanded. It's like in a sense less structured because I like before I had to put you in these like categories like Melena's this, but now it's like I know you on such a like intimate and deep level.
Like I'm allowing you to surprise me and you're not always going to respond in the boxes I put you in.
I know you enough to know that there's depths of you that I will always be getting to know.
Hell yeah.
Like that's how much I know you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like like how they say like, the wiser you are, the more you realize you don't know. Mm-hmm. Like the more knowledge you get, the more it just confirms to you that there is just a universe of knowledge out there that you don't know yet. Mm. And I feel like that's how it's been like with my relationship with God. Mm. Like in a sense, like the more I get to know God now, the more I realize he, she, whatever, the universe is a mystery. And like Jesus even said that. He even said like, I speak of mysteries. I speak of things like the Greek word's literally like mysterioso or something like that. That sounds like Harry Potter. But anyways, but like literally Jesus says, I'm here and I'm speaking of mysteries, and I feel like my deconstruction was just embracing that about God. was just
the
embracing
mysterious part of God.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like realizing like that's a majority of my relationship with God. Like I thought I knew God, and through Christianity, I caught onto certain aspects of who he is and how God works in my life and whatever.
So you can almost like you can expect like what God's going to say in a way, like you can expect how he, because you know these aspects, he is truth, he's love, he's patient. You have a frame of him, but when he's mysterious, you don't really like, it's almost like, what the heck? He could say anything to me, you know?
Yeah,
and I feel like that's a lot scarier maybe, or it's a lot more like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's uncertain. A lot more unstable because it's like only in the sense that like you, like as a Christian, I came from a point of, and especially like being, you know, working at church, being in ministry, so to say, like, there was this feeling that I knew God. Like I knew who he was. Like
you're like, I know this guy.
I know. Yeah. I know this guy. Yeah. Like I'd read the Bible like multiple times, like, you know, taught it, experienced it, lived it with all my heart, like genuinely. And there was this feeling that I knew God. And then once I deconstructed and realized I don't know God, there was this weird understanding of like, that makes sense, that if God's God, like that he is infinitely big and expansive. And I say he just because my background, but like, you know, like that God is literally almost is God and therefore unknowable.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Cause I know I feel like I know you. Okay. Like, do you feel like that's more of a testament as far as you saying like Zach back then was like, I know God. And I feel like Zach in general sometimes feels like, oh, I know what they're going to say, or I know what, I feel like it's more testament to your personality. So like, has that perspective not only shifted from God, but like to people, like instead of being like meeting someone for the first time, be like, oh, I know what kind of person they are you more like,
I see, I
don't know this person. Like there's depths to them that I haven't seen yet. And maybe there could be more to them. Is that
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Bro, I knew it.
So like that, I mean, that's the whole point of doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Is literally like people are so full of depth and complicated, and you can't possibly know, like everyone's got a thing to give you. Everyone's got a perspective that you can benefit from, that you can grow from. Everyone's seen life in a way that you haven't necessarily seen it. And if you can try to see it from the way they've seen it, you've just grown. You've just expanded. You've just become more like God. You know, because God must be, in my mind, God must be like infinitely diverse because of the way this world is, like whether it's animals or like, you know, the way the like nature is, or the way people are, cultures over geographic location, over time, how different people have been and the different views people have had. It's just like this whole thing of like, everyone's got a piece of truth. And I want to know it. I want to know your piece of truth because I want to know the truth. I want to know what life's about. I want to know the thing that you've dialed into. I want to know what that is because like the more people I can talk to and understand that, like whether I disagree with 99% of what they think, if there's that 1% that they've caught onto that I haven't, I need that. I want that. That's worth digging for, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
And that's why I wanted, you know, even do this podcast. Cause it's like, the whole point is like, hey, give me that 1%. You know, most people will not have 1%, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think you definitely hold the, what's it called? You hold like the patience for that. You definitely just have that in you to like pull that out of people like naturally, which is so beautiful about you, Zach. Like you give people that time to actually even like say they have it, but they can't find it. Like you give them the space to find it, or you help them find that truth within them. And that's really awesome about you and your podcast, which is awesome. So
man, thank you. That means a lot. Cause literally that's all I want to do with my life. Like if there's a way to just do this and that's it, like focus all my energy, all my time onto like helping people like realize they have something that's worth sharing, have something that's worth, you know, like giving to the world. Like that's going to make the world better. Like that's like the way I can contribute to like this planet, this, you know, the time I live in. It's just helping people recognize two things. One, you have fucking something to say that everyone needs to hear. You have a perspective that's valuable. And then two, everyone needs to shut the fuck up and listen to other people, you know, like listen to other people's perspective, put off the judgment,
100. Yeah.
Like put off the political shit.
Put off the guard.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Like recognize that everybody is diverse and complicated, and you're never going to fully agree with someone. You should listen to people though.
And allow people. You know what I love about life? Like I allow myself now to, that's what Christianity, I think, kind of hindered me in a way of like the minute someone brought something that contradicted my beliefs, it was like this, like, oh, it was so uncomfortable inside of me. It was so like, I didn't want to like sit with it. Cause I'm like, if that's not true, then I have to think deeper. And I have to actually like, work this thing out within me. And for some reason, in every area of my life, I was willing to do that. But with Christianity, I wasn't, because it was like too much. It would shake up too much.
For sure.
But the moment I allowed myself to, see, even politically, like when I see a Trump flag, something inside of me would stir up. Like, I was so uncomfortable. Like it was like angry. It was like either anger or, I know that
triggered kind of thing.
It's triggered. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to, and I've known this from like a young age, from like elementary school. I've learned the moment you give someone your reaction, you give them power, honestly. And so I'm like, I don't want to be triggered. I don't want to give that person my power. I want to take it for what it is. And then I want to respond, Yeah,
100%. And I love that. Like literally that's like all we need right now. Like if we can just kind of get our heads around that concept, like things will be so much better. Like if you can get your head around that concept as an individual, you'll be able to navigate this world, in such a more like fulfilling way. And that's the thing. Like, I really think my personal opinion is that despite whatever your personal opinion is, you should be able to be friends with a Trump supporter. If you're, on the left, if you're on the right, you should be able to be fucking friends with, someone that like voted for Biden and thinks that Trump was the devil. If you're like you're wearing two masks out there, you should be able to be friends with the person that's like masks are bogus.
He was in Florida at a bar partying like in a club.
Like you shouldn't judge people based on these opinions, because you have to like understand people are like, they're a product of the bubble they're in. Like if you kind of come from a certain place, you're going to have a certain opinion in a certain, like to a certain degree. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I
was going to say, at the very least, to what you're saying, like allow the other side, or allow whatever side you're on, allow the opposing side to relay whatever information they are, and it not like makes you start to feel some type of, okay, you're allowed to feel whatever way, but the moment it's like, it hinders you from being your full self, or it hinders you from, allowing you to breathe, allowing you to live. That's where it's like, come on, like we gotta,
that should be a red flag to kind of check yourself.
Yeah, to check yourself.
That you're just like, you're triggered based on your group identity. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah, your identity is so, wrapped in this group that anything opposing is triggering your identity. Yeah.
Yeah. And literally, like, I wonder, I don't know, I haven't researched this, but I have this feeling that it's like, that's literally like in our biology for like survival.
100%.
And it's not even like coming from like you might have a logical argument, but that feeling, that triggered feeling in you isn't coming from like logic in your head. It's coming from like this survival instinct in you, from like where we came from, how we evolved, like you have safety in the group. And if the group's threatened, then you're threatened. And like anything that threatens the group that you're a part of, it's time to take that out.
And that goes back to like basic psychology that I freaking learned in like high school. Like we all want to be a part of a group. We all want to identify with a group. We all want to like that. I think it's, I want to say Ash, but I could be wrong. It was a psychologist who did the social experiment where they were in a line of men who they looked at it like a line drawing. They asked them a question, and then there was an answer. Everyone gave their answers, and everyone gave the right answers like the first 3 times. And then after, there was one guy who wasn't like a part of the group. Like he was like a random stranger in like and so when they started to give the wrong answer, he would give the wrong answer to fit in with the group. You know what I'm saying? Oh. And this psychology like experiment has been done multiple times, and they say like I think 2/3 of every people will go with the group, and we all like to think that we will go with the group and we'll go against, even if we think we're right, but really we just want to belong. We want to fit in, And so,
and that's how we make our judgments. And it's not necessarily based on like logic and reason.
For sure.
It's based on what makes us feel safe.
Yeah.
Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, you're good. No, you're fine. No, I'm thinking as I'm actually like thinking like what you're, and I'm responding to what you're saying. So, cool. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's bad. I learn a lot from people who do get triggered. I learn so much from people watching the news and, seeing other Christians, and I'm like, I'm still learning from all these people who are in the faith and who are still like preaching the gospel. Like I learned from those people. And I learned from the people who are triggered by, certain politics. And I don't know, I think they're all there for a reason, and you just try to learn from everyone.
Yeah, 100%. Because if you don't, you're going to live in your bubble. You're going to have the opinions of the bubble you're in, and you're not going to have diversity. And diversity is the beauty of this world.
Yes.
Like that is what makes you feel, what makes you feel
so like
alive.
PC and like weird, but like diversity. Oh my God.
Damn it. I'm not trying to fight.
We're all just we all should live in like a co-op and pick flowers.
Like a secret hippie for sure.
100. I think I would have been a hippie, honestly, like love.
Yeah. Because of group identity. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, if there was any group I want to be a part of, it's them. 100%. Anyway.
From an objective point.
Yeah.
Like, let's be hippies for sure. Yeah, no, I feel that. I love that. And like the more people kind of embrace that idea, I think the more peace comes. And, like I'm down for a future where we can all kind of get more behind that idea. But yeah, I love it. And that's why I love being friends with you, love being friends with Josh. Like, honestly, like, to go back to like the beginning of the rabbit hole that we went down that got us here is it's like, even in like the deconstruction, it feels like it feels like we lost everything, but we gained friends like you guys. Like at the same time that certain relationships started to kind of fizzle out, and like no hard feelings. Like I get it. Like I used to like feel weird around people that left the church and stuff when I was a Christian, but like, as those relationships kind of just, took their natural course of fading out because we didn't have those same things in common anymore. It was like people that have that same value system as you, those same like core, beliefs, like they just came into our lives, like you and Josh, like out of nowhere, like right at that transition time in our lives, the other people that have been on this podcast, like, more people that will come on in the future, like those people came into our lives at like right at that time. And it was just like, boom, like it's like you draw people in that have those same things as you.
And I honestly, I find myself thinking about it a lot. Like, I don't know what it is, why, like, because me and Milena are like so like opposite, like we're very different, but there's just something about her and you. I find myself just honestly feeling like home with you guys. Like it feels, I don't know if it's like because we were around each other a lot or because we both in this span of a year of knowing each other, like went through a lot of growth, but it just feels like family, and it feels like comfort and support. And I can't put on one thing, but yeah.
You know what I think it might be?
What?
I think we're all just like at least just the four of us. And we, I'm not saying like tooting our own horn per se, or maybe I am, but like, I think we just don't give a fuck about being anything but authentic. Like, I think all that church stuff and like the pressure to like look a certain way, and like, I think this is you and Josh too, but like all that pressure to appear a certain way, to have that, kind of like image in other people's minds. Like, I think that just gets so exhausting after a while that you just stop giving a fuck anymore. And you're just like, this is who I am, and you can accept me or not. And the thing is like, yeah, you and Josh accept us. Like, you've seen our bullshit. Like, you've seen Milena and I fight. You've seen kind of like the worst of us, and you're just like, okay, we're here for it. We're here for it because we love you guys. And like, even though like in my mind, you and Josh have basically the perfect relationship. Like, if you were to fight,
we do not.
I know, but like, in theory, if you were to like fight like that, like me and Milena would just be like, like actually kind of glad that we get to see the authentic side of you, because I think really at the core of things, everyone's tired of the bullshit. Everyone's tired of the freaking Instagram, freaking social media, especially from the church world. Like, we're all sick of like fucking putting up an image, man. Like, we just want to be ourselves and like fuck with the people who are down for that and not worry about the people who aren't.
Absolutely. And to speak on the social media thing, like, I just feel like there's like this new thing arising of like fake deep, where you put out something that seems transparent, but it's not authentically you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
And I reckon, and it's like bullshit. That's all bullshit. Like, you try to come off as like this, I'm so real, to make yourself more relatable, but in your efforts to make yourself more relatable, you're just giving people more bullshit, and only real people will recognize that. And I think that's what I see in people. I see that you can recognize bullshit, and that's what I appreciate about people. And I think that's what it is. I just figured it out.
That makes sense.
Now.
Wow, damn. That's so funny. Yeah, it's like those YouTube videos where like, we're going to give $10,000 to a homeless person. And it's like, wow, you're such a good person. And like, literally give them the 10,000, like, down for that, 100% down for that. But like, don't act like you're doing it just out of the goodness of your heart. You're getting fucking YouTube views. Like,
I know. Or I think of like those chicks on Instagram who are like, oh my God, Instagram versus reality. Look at my messy room. Oh my God, I have clothes on the floor. This is the real life, guys. Like,
for sure.
No,
it's still like totally fake. Like,
I'm just like, I just can tell, and I don't even know how to explain it, but I can just tell, like, you're trying to show like a reasonably, like, a socially acceptable version of your vulnerability, which isn't actually being vulnerable. It's like big deep.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So I'm like,
you're trying to capitalize on authenticity.
Exactly.
But by trying to do that, you're not being authentic.
And then I think you're worse than the person who's being completely fake, to be honest with me. Yeah. It's like, I don't know why, but it just irritates me and triggers the fuck out of me.
Screw social media. Yeah. I'll still post my best looking pictures though, honestly.
Yeah, same.
Dang. Well, man, I'm not sure how long we've been going, but I feel like
this is a good great podcast. Convo. Yeah. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. Like, it's going to be hard not to just like have you on for every single one of them. So I guess I'll have to talk to other people. Whatever.
It's okay. We'll have to do like a group of people. Would you ever have like 4 people on?
100%. I'm dreaming of it. Like,
sick.
I just want to, like, I have to like buy more mics and headphones and stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
But like, once we do that, 100% we'll do 4 people. Like,
sweet.
I'm just like, I'm down to try it all. Like, I want to try it all. So
awesome.
But yeah, I love you so much, Dom.
Love you too.
I love you, Josh. You're the man.
You're the realest there ever been.
That's true. Honestly, that is 100% true. So anyways, guys, get y'all some friends like Josh and Dom. And thanks for listening to A Stranger Perspective. Our perspectives is strange. So I hope like you got some of that from us, and I hope you're like become a little bit more okay with your own self and who you are and what the fuck you think about shit. And come on here and like share your strange perspective with us and with everybody. So love everybody. Thanks so much. Love you guys. Josh and Dom, and we'll see you on the next one.
Be safe and
namaste.
Shalom.
Tight.